the challenges when you start towing, particularly bigger units, is actually knowing when you need towing mirrors. And the answer to that question is pretty simple. It's basically when that trailer becomes wider than your vehicle, that is when you need towing mirrors. Now, there are two different types of mirrors that you can install to your tow vehicle. There are permanent and there are non-permanent. Now, the non-permanent ones are pretty handy if you sort of move vehicles around all the time and you want to swap and change your mirrors over, because most of them are fairly easy to install. But once they're on your vehicle, they do have a number of problems. One is the fact that they can actually rattle loose and simply fly off. And there are many situations up and down the highways of Australia where that has happened. The other challenge is that they need to be manually adjusted. So often that means pulling your vehicle over and readjusting them and then driving on. But there are other factors like road trains, buses and trucks that can really wreak havoc on those non-permanent mirrors, and the reason being is simply wind. Those things are not as permanently affixed to your vehicle, so hence they have a greater tendency to move around. And then you come to your permanently mounted mirrors like these ones here. Now, being permanent, these mirrors retain all the original factory controls that you've got inside the cab. So if you want to tilt your mirror in or out, then they are so easy to do. The only manual adjustment on these mirrors is actually moving them out or back in. Very, very simple. And they are extremely solid and do take a little bit of pressure to do that move. And that's a good thing, because that means that on the road, they're not going to easily slide in and out. But these permanent mirrors also have another advantage over those temporary ones. And the beauty here is that they've actually got two different lenses. So your top lens looks right out into the distance, but your bottom lens is more of a wide angle. And it's a real beauty when you're doing things like negotiating a roundabout and you want to actually look down at the wheels on the back of your four-wheel drive or tow vehicle and the wheels on your trailer. It really gives you that additional confidence when you're maneuvering around those tight spaces.
While your tow vehicle may come fitted with a standard 50mm tow ball, your trailer manufacturer, on the other hand, may stipulate any type of hitch that they feel best suits the purpose of the trailer. The 50mm tow ball has been the staple of the towing world for many years, but it has been surrounded by a huge variety of different hitches now, and they can be quite confusing. So which one is right for you? Let's have a look at that. The standard ball hitch comes in two sizes, 50mm, which is good for up to 3,500 kilos, and the 70mm, which is good for up to 4,500 kilos. There are some variations on the theme. The one that comes to mind immediately is the rapid hitch. It has both a 50mm and a 70mm ball attached to the same aluminium billet, which is then able to be varied in height on the tow tongue itself, keeping in mind that there are regulations governing the height of a 50mm tow ball. It needs to be between 350 to 460 millimeters above the ground. These regulations only apply to a tow ball. They do not apply to any of the off-road hitches that you may find on the market. While the ball coupling is perfectly suited to on-road and good quality dirt road application, it does start to show its shortcomings when we start to venture further off-road. It's because of its limited articulation, which is about 20 degrees in any plane. Which means that for those of you who wish to venture further off-road, you're going to need to try and find a hitch that best suits the type of articulation for your needs, assuming of course that your trailer is also up to the job. When it comes to choosing your off-road hitch, there are a few things to keep in mind. Does it meet Australian standards? Does it work well with a weight distribution system? Is it easy to maintain? And does it have a visual means of positive connection? Firstly, let's have a look at this polyblock hitch, commonly referred to as either a treg or a trig hitch. It has greater articulation than a tow ball and is commonly used in camper trailers. It is comprised of a polyurethane or nylon block which is captured between two steel U-shaped frames, all held together with this pin. This hitch, as we said, has great articulation, it has good vertical movement, it has up to 90 degrees sideways movement, and it can rotate through 360 degrees. Next, we have a look at a variety of mechanical systems which make hitching up a very simple operation. Some manufacturers have positive engagement of the hitch with just one simple movement. Others need to be guided in and a pin put in place to hold the system together. There are a number of very popular off-road hitches out there that offer very clever engineering solutions to the off-road towing environment. Which one you choose depends upon your trailer manufacturer, your budget and your personal choice.
We've heard a lot of chatter on social media about shackles. I'm here to debunk some of those urban myths. We've talked a lot about weights, ratings, our combination. What's the safest way to connect our safety chains to our vehicle? Well, we would recommend a rated shackle. So what is a rated shackle? It's a shackle that has been tested and stamped. It's been stamped with a working load limit, WLL, and then it has a little number and the T for tonne. That means it's safe for up to that tonnage. Most manufacturers have a safety rating of about 5 or 6 times that. So a 1 tonne shackle isn't going to break up to about 5 or 6 tonnes. We often get asked, I've got a 3 tonne van, I must need a 3 tonne shackle. You will not fit the pin size in your tow bar. Remember what we said about the safety factor. A 1 tonne shackle has a safety factor of up to 5 tonnes. It's going to be quite sufficient for my van. The regulations say I must have a connection that is fit for purpose and that is equivalent strength to my chain. This is certainly going to do the job. When choosing your shackle, it doesn't matter whether it's a D or a bow shackle. It doesn't matter what colour the pin is. It's all about that rating. Make sure it has the WLL stamping on it, and that's your assurance of safety. Anything from 1 tonne up is fine. It's all about the pin size. Will it fit into my tow bar?
When it comes to towing trailers over 2,000 kilos in weight, you need a brake controller fitted into the vehicle so that you can control the electric brakes on the trailer. There are 3 types of brake controllers. We have solid state unit, we have a pendulum type unit, and we also have an inertia sensing unit as well. Here we have an inertia sensing unit, and here we have a solid state unit with a sync controller. When it comes to brake controller units, it is very important that they are fitted by a qualified auto electrician. Some of the electronics in modern vehicles is quite complex, and it may be beyond the average handyman to be able to do the job. There are a few fundamental differences between brake controllers, and understanding what those differences are will allow you to make a wise choice when it comes to your application. With an inertia unit, it typically has an accelerometer in it, which is similar to the ones you will find in your modern phones. It will sense 3-dimensional movement, particularly the forces of deceleration when putting the brakes on in the car. The inertia unit will measure these deceleration forces and proportionally apply brakes to the trailer to match the amount of deceleration that the car is going through. So now, with the solid state unit with the sync controller, this one is much like the volume control on an audio system. It allows you to control the amount of voltage that is applied to the brakes on the trailer. The sync controller allows you to control when that voltage is applied, a little bit early, a little bit later. That is a great advantage when you're going down a steep hill. You can bring the brakes in a little bit earlier so that when you're just touching the brake on the car, the brakes on the trailer are already working. And that helps to keep the trailer under control when you're going down a steep hill. Finally, the other unit that we often talk about is a pendulum unit. It is actually fitted with a small pendulum in it, and it swings backwards and forwards as the vehicle accelerates and decelerates. So moving the pendulum on that little thumb wheel to the side allows you to create the timing of the brake activation on the trailer. By moving the pendulum backwards a little bit, you can get the brakes to come in a little bit later. By moving the pendulum forward a little bit, you can get the brakes to come in a bit earlier. Once again, really handy when travelling down steep hills. The one thing to remember with pendulum units is that you wouldn't use them off-road. because you're travelling up steep gradients and down steep gradients, the pendulum will activate or not activate according to the hill. It's important that you choose the brake controller that is most suited to your application and that you find easy to use. But the most important section here is the fact that you learn how to use it. Get someone to show you how it works and that you put it in a position in the cab of the vehicle so that both the driver and the passenger can get to it should there be a need. So why does the passenger need to operate the brake controller? Well, imagine that the trailer is swinging wildly and the driver is concentrating so heavily that they can't take their hands off the steering wheel. In that time, the passenger can locate and apply the trailer brakes independent of everything else whilst the driver's trying to slow down. This will help in controlling the rig and bringing you to a nice safe stop. We often practice the application of the brake controller from the passenger seat. This is very reassuring for the driver, particularly when we think that the trailer may be a little bit more unstable, like when there's a truck overtaking or if we're going down a windy hill. It is reassuring to know that the passenger can be part of the safety process when we're trying to bring the rig to a stop.
Breakaway brake systems are exactly that. They activate if ever the trailer becomes separated from the vehicle. They're mandatory on any trailer that has a gross trailer mass of over 2,000 kilos. There is a lanyard from the drawbar of the trailer to the vehicle, not the tow hitch. If ever it's pulled free, it will activate the trailer brakes independently of the vehicle's brakes. It does this by using the onboard battery on the trailer to activate the trailer brakes. This battery must have sufficient capacity to hold the trailer brakes on for 15 minutes. The purpose of this brake system is to stop the trailer careering off on its own in the event of an accident. This battery is often forgotten or may go flat while the trailer is in storage, so checking that it's charging from the vehicle via its electrical cable and has sufficient charge at the beginning of your trip is very important. You may need to put it on a battery charger a few days before you intend to leave. An in-vehicle battery monitor is also important. It has an audible or visual alarm that lets the driver know that the charge in the battery has dropped too low to operate the trailer brakes effectively. At present, New South Wales is the only state where this in-vehicle monitoring system is mandatory.
When it comes to electronic stability control, each of the vehicle manufacturers has their own acronym to describe it, but they all do essentially the same thing. So what is it all about? With electronic stability control fitted to the vehicle is monitoring a series of sensors. These could be pitch, roll, yaw, or even steering angle. The whole idea is that the vehicle is trying to prevent either an understeer or oversteer motion. If the vehicle does sense an understeer or an oversteer moment, it will initially cut back on the available torque by throttling back the engine. If that doesn't correct the issue, it will start to apply brakes as necessary to deliver on the driver's intention of getting you round the corner safely. If you don't have electronic stability control fitted to your vehicle, then at the very least we should be looking to fit it into our trailer. When it comes to fitting electronic stability control into your trailer, there are a number of options. It can be provided as standard by the manufacturer at the factory. In some cases it may even be an option that you tick to be fitted at the factory. Or if you don't have a system in your van, you can purchase it later and have it fitted by a qualified auto electrician. Quite often we're given the scenario by customers, we've got stability control in our vehicle and we've also got it in our caravan. That's terrific because it comes down to whichever picks it up first. If the trailer picks the sway up first, it's going to deal with it. If the vehicle picks up the sway first, it will deal with it. It's a win-win situation. The electronic stability control system as fitted to the trailer will do its very best to deal with trailer sway, but it won't mask poor driving behaviour and it won't correct a poorly loaded caravan. There is a myth out there that I would really like to dispel, and that myth is that if you have a trailer that is swaying, you can accelerate to straighten the whole combination out. Unfortunately, this is not the case. the most likely scenario is that we'll just end up with a faster accident. The way to deal with trailer sway is for the driver to come off the accelerator and start slowing the whole combination down. Then the driver or the passenger can apply the trailer brakes independently, therefore assisting to bring the whole combination under control. In summary, having electronic stability control is a terrific thing. If you've got it fitted in your vehicle and your trailer, that is brilliant. But at the very least, if you fit it just into the trailer, that's going to save you in the long run.